And before we continue with today's presentation, it is so important that we do an acknowledgement of traditional lands. Royal Roads University acknowledges that the campus is located on the traditional lands of the Cosatsum, Esquimalt, and Lekwungen Songhees ancestors and families. It is with gratitude that we now learn and work here, where the past, the present, and the future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, faculty, and staff come together. Welcome. So I'm now going to invite up Todd Thexton, who is the school director of the School of Business, and he's going to be talking a little bit about the BBA, giving us a quick overview, and then we're going to dive into the questions with our students. So Todd, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Really happy to be here and excited to have Emily and Celicia from the program joining us today too. I don't want to take up too much time because I want to make sure that we have enough room for their voices to come through. But maybe just to talk really briefly about the program. And of course, you can get more information about the program online on our website. And for those of you who've kind of been following this series of 3 webinars, this is the third of 3 webinars on the BBA program and its orientation. Some of this might be a little bit familiar to you, but just to give you some background, at Royal Roads University, our Bachelor of Business Administration in Innovation and Sustainability is an undergraduate degree completion program, which means that it's basically year 3 and year 4 of a standard Canadian 4-year undergraduate degree. So students who come into the program have typically had some college background, so they've done a couple of years at college, or maybe some combination of some college work plus a lot of work experience on top of that. That gives them an equivalent amount of preparation for the program. So at Royal Roads, you can complete this degree completion program as fast as 16 months. There are some other options that take a little bit longer if you want to do an international semester abroad, or if you'd like to do an internship option, those are available as well. They take a little bit longer than 16 months. But if you're looking to complete your degree and get into the job market as quickly as possible, I think 16 months is about as fast as you can do year 3 and year 4 anywhere across Canada. You know a bit about our program, you know that we've got a program that has a very intentional focus towards sustainability, social and environmental sustainability. This is a program that really is involved with supporting our students in becoming change makers in the world and addressing some of the key issues that we confront on the globe today, including things like inequality or poverty or climate change or biodiversity loss. We believe that business is one of the critical institutions in society for addressing those issues. We think that business can make a positive contribution towards solving some of these processes. But in order to do that, we need to train an entire generation of business leaders who are able to find ways to run and invent businesses that actually make the world a better place to live in. So that's what we're on about here, is really about how business can play a role in solving some of the critical global challenges that we face today. The other thing that's really unique about the BBA program at Royal Roads is it is a project-based learning and teaching model. I'll say a little bit more about what that is. Project-based learning means that instead of kind of sitting in classrooms and listening to lectures as people kind of, your instructor stands at the top and talks for a couple of hours and gives you all the information that you're supposed to memorize and repeat back when the final exam comes around. That's not what learning is like in our program. All of the learning that happens in our program happens in the context of live client projects. That means that all the time you show up to class, and every day that you show up to class, you're working on a project for a live client somewhere out in the community who has some kind of business issue that they're looking for a solution to that connects to social and environmental sustainability. So really, it feels probably a little bit more like work than it does like school, because every day you're actually just pulling together strategies and plans and doing analyses in order to support our live clients in the community. I like this part of the BBA program because I think education has the capacity to accomplish 2 things simultaneously. And one of them is to educate a group of future change makers with the skills and the knowledge and the competencies that they'll need in order to go out into the world and to make a significant change in the world. But we can do more than just that. We can actually make a difference right here, right now, by using the incredible resources of our student body and our instructors and our facilitators to get out there and start solving problems right now, not waiting until after graduation, but rolling up our sleeves, getting our hands dirty, and solving the problems that really are urgent enough that we really can't wait much longer. So that's what project-based learning is all about. You'll see here from just a few of the courses that we've listed here as well, that a lot of our academic subjects that we teach in the program are subjects that reflect, I think, the needs of the current world, both in terms of workforce and labor force needs, but also the kind of skills and knowledge that the graduates will need from this program in order to be leaders in their field moving forward in a very, very complex world with many wicked problems to solve. So that's what we're up to. And I think today we're going to focus on one aspect of that impact in the world, and that's in the conversation of social innovation. So I'll pass it back to you, Amara.
Thank you so much, Todd. Thanks for giving us an overview. So now I'm so pleased to welcome up our students. So we have Emily Mulroney and we have Celicia Kent-Singh here with us today, and I'm going to spotlight them for everyone so that you can see them here. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Wonderful. So if you want to see everybody spotlighted, you just go to the top right of the screen and you go speaker view, and that will spotlight our speakers for you today. Awesome. So welcome. Hello, Emily. Hello, Celicia. Thank you for joining us today. So I'd like to kick us off with a question. And I think it's really important that we kind of define what we're talking about. So I wanted to start with you, Emily. What does social innovation mean to you?
Well, I feel like that's a very big question, but the first thing that comes to mind is sort of reinventing the structures that we exist in and socialize in. And so that can mean giving people a voice who were traditionally like oppressed by the patriarchal system or the colonial systems. But it also means just ensuring that we're treating people like human beings and recognizing what human needs are. And it also means changing the mindset of people to focus on, what, I personally agree with what's important, such as, environmental concerns, social justice, and yeah, giving people a voice and creating structures that reflect that.
Thank you, Emily. And Celicia, for you, what does social innovation mean to you?
Yeah, I think I would reflect a lot of what Emily is saying, but I think a big part of social innovation for me is like the self-organization of people and the sort of direction and push for innovation, even in like dormant structures. Yeah, and I think that the challenges within our society are so imminent, and mass social attention is needed, and that's where like the innovation comes from.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, one of the things that I reflect on around social innovation is that part of it is really getting down to defining really in a meaningful way, what does value mean to us as a society? Does it just mean really getting rich, or does it mean a particular way of being with one another, being compassionate toward one another, caring for one another, as Emily and Celicia were saying, making sure that there's room for everybody within our communities to feel a part of the community. And the innovation part is really, how do we need to do things differently in order to capture that value, in order to provide that value for our world? I think that's a big focus of what we're up to in the BBA.
And I think another big part of it is rethinking the triple bottom line and really like mobilizing your efforts to highlight and elevate your goals for people, planet, and prosperity. And so whether that is financial or just the longevity of the survival of a business, I think that's a big part of it too. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. So I want to dig in a little bit deeper now that we've defined what social innovation means to you. How do you find that this program makes social innovation relevant to business and business operations? And I know, Celicia, I'm going to start with you because you started to kind of touch on that, and I'd like for you to dig in a bit more. So how do you find this program, like the BBA program, makes social innovation relevant to business and business operations?
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from the topic modules that we're working through, and obviously in our project work as well. But I think that the degree of which you apply the principles of social innovation varies in like to who you are as a person and how you kind of just perceive like objectives and goals of a project. So things like incorporating principles of humanistic management and yeah, and looking beyond self-actualization, but to the actualization of the local community and the development of the people around you as like as growth for an individual as well, and then moving that and reflecting that onto the environment. I know that this isn't business in nature, but in my opinion, and yeah, I just think that social innovation and the environment are very closely intertwined because I probably said this in the last webinar, but the environment, like we are natural relatives to the environment and we are not separate, but exist within nature. And so I think, yeah, incorporating those values in social innovation is another major allure to the program too, and how we incorporate that. Because in my past program, we had like a separate course that is social innovation, and it was our one course, and we had a project in that where we rethink some sort of business model, and you are doing innovative business modeling. But I think that it's applied more holistically. I think like I could say it in a sentence.
I really like that approach. It's applied holistically. I like that word holistically. It's woven in, it's embedded into everything, not just a standalone course. Thank you. That's really fascinating to have you summarize it like that. And Emily, if you could add on kind of how you find that this program incorporates social innovation and makes it relevant to business and business operations.
Yeah, well, I agree. It's definitely something that's woven into every single project, right from the get-go. It's one of the biggest considerations when, you know, we're approaching whatever project. But you know, the way that is relevant to business and business operations is I mean, there's this perspective, and you know, basically it's a more sustainable way of operating. It actually facilitates the perpetuation of these businesses by creating something that, you know, treats people like humans and supports the environment and is like the program builds in. Yeah, sorry, I'm stumbling because Celicia mentioned this before, how social innovation and environmental innovation are very intertwined. And so I keep wanting to go to like environmental, supporting the environment, but in creating structures that support the environment and support treating people like humans, you're actually creating a more stable business. And yeah, it's more sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. It really is, you know, and I think that a key part of that is those are the businesses that have really tapped into what value really means and knows how to produce value, capital V value, not value in terms of something that'll give you satisfaction for a few hours and then you chuck it in the garbage, but deep value as a member of the community. And I appreciate that piece a lot. It makes me think of the first project we worked on with your cohort was the kitchen garden project. And one of the explicit requirements of that project is it needed to have a social benefit attached to it. So social enterprise is one form, one type of social innovation. I think we started right in on that by saying, okay, you need a viable product, a marketable product from this kitchen garden, but you also need a business model that's going to extend the benefits of this enterprise beyond just those to the gardener or to the to the customer who buys the food at the end of the day, but a business model that's going to make a larger impact on the community. And so, and I like that idea too of justice, or of environment and society being intertwined together. You really can't think about one without the other. Every environmental issue is an issue of justice in society. I think we can't lose track of that. Yeah, thanks to both of you. Good answers.
Thank you. So I guess I know we've had webinars in the past and both of you have joined us, which is wonderful. But for any new listeners or anybody in the room who hasn't met you before and heard about what drew you to Royal Roads, if you could let us know, I'll start with you, Emily, what drew you to Royal Roads and to the BBA program in particular?
Well, I actually started out my interest in politics because I thought that that would be a really good mode of making the changes that I wanted to see in the world, or at least facilitating or supporting those changes. And when I started studying politics, I kind of realized that a lot of the change that was happening was dependent on like multinational corporations and even businesses, you know, the way that people vote with their money. And so I found that a little bit disheartening, given the state of business at that time and given what I knew about business, which wasn't that much. And I found that traditional business programs, you know, there was a lot of focus on profit and sort of, you know, just making a successful business without sort of taking into those social considerations or environmental considerations. And so I kind of steered away from that. And then when I discovered this program, I thought this is just a very happy marriage of everything that I wanted. So yeah, just having that business perspective, but having it totally centered around using business to make the world a better place, basically. Yeah.
Thank you. And now I'll pass it over to you, Celicia, to add as well.
Yeah, so my story kind of begins similarly to Emily's. I was like, my path was going into an environmental science degree, and I was very excited about like being accepted and was excited about my path. But I came to the realization that the change, or I felt that change was mobilized more so in like society, and like there are many reports that have been like published and are like available to the public that say all the things that we need to do in order to reduce like emissions and improve like overall sustainability for all of our societal structures and systems. Like I felt like those resources and information like that all existed, and I was really intrigued by how they weren't being incorporated into like what we were doing. And it seemed like people I talked to also felt the same way as me. So then I kind of decided, and I come from a long line of entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs, so I think that it's kind of something I was always exposed to. So I felt confident about going into a 2-year business program at a college. And yeah, so I was very practically minded in going into my first year of post-secondary studies. And then I felt frustrated in my program because I felt like I was wasting my time. I didn't know why I was making up a different business, like, and just pulling figures out of thin air for these projects that were still worth like large percentage of my grade, but were taking up a lot of time of my life. And I felt like my skills could be better applied. And so I was kind of chomping at the bit to get into the workplace, but then I really wanted to finish my degree. So I looked at degree completion options, and yeah, I saw this first. It wasn't this option, but I'll like save the really long story for later. Yeah, but then when I found this, it just felt so serendipitous. Like I couldn't have designed a program that fit my needs more. My passions with like the environment and sustainability and social innovation are all intertwined and ingrained into the curriculum. I admired, I mean, working in teams is always tough because you have to rely on people that aren't you. And I'm very much so a perfectionist.
Awesome.
So, I mean, probably in just the way that I described how it's tough. Like, so I was nervous about team-based, project-based learning, but excited because I felt like the teamwork that I had done and the facilitation of the teamwork, I felt like I could have learned more from the work that I was engaging in my college diploma, if that makes sense. Like yeah. And then project-based learning, the fact that I would be able to actually have an impact with people in my community. And I could foresee, like the impacts and the ability to like have a hand in some of the innovations and help like the brilliant minds that are already at work in our community that I aspire to be like one day. Yeah, sorry, very long-winded, but it's exciting.
I love the stories so much. I mean, you're both perfect students for this program in my mind. And there's a few things about that really stand out for me. I feel very strongly that your values are aligned with what the program is trying to accomplish. So it's not odd from your perspective that we're putting a lot of focus on environmental and social outcomes besides just business outcomes. That really is, I think I say this often, that the BBA program is unashamedly values-based with respect to being oriented towards making positive contributions in those two ways. And then I also get that you both have change maker impulses in you, that you've got somewhere in your background that stays with you today, that you're looking for that opening to create a meaningful difference in the world, and see business as being kind of an institution through which that's possible for you. I think those are just very exciting attributes, and really that's the kind of student that we're looking for here in the BBA program, that change maker attitude and the aspiration towards making a positive difference in the world. I think those are important attributes.
Thank you both for sharing kind of like your why behind why you're in this program and how you found it. It's really, really impactful to hear that. So now I want to dig even deeper. I think that's what this webinar is all about today, is just kind of really digging in and asking you some questions. And what I want to know is, how is the BBA actually empowering you to make the meaningful social, and you can talk about environment, because I know I've been noticing that you're both trying to not talk about environment. Talk about how is it empowering you to make meaningful social and environmental changes? So how is the program and what you're doing now empowering? And Celicia, we're going to jump back to you again on that one.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of the principles we're learning just in working in project work and exposure to like iterative process and just the reality of project work. Like it's uncertain, and there's so many variables that are just kind of always shifting. But I think that there are tools that we use within our projects and that we pass on to clients that are very clearly transferable. And like these skills don't just stay in a kitchen garden project for Royal Roads campus. And moving forward, whether it is like working in like doing consultant work or like my own personal venture, I know that the foundation that I have is strong, and I've already tried and failed. So I feel like more confident in going into things, and like the hardest thing about trying something new is being bad at it, and it's okay. But that's a really big learning curve for me, because I like to be good at things when I try them. And then I think like a lot of the theory as well is really supportive, I think, just because like business is like the heart of like society and, in my opinion, civilization. Like if you like started living in groups because we could benefit from each other's skills, and I think that that's something that has almost been lost since, like we're not benefit. Yeah, I used the wrong word. Now we're benefiting off of each other. But before it was like harmonious. Like I think that the purpose of business and trade has shifted, and the tools and theories that we're learning about, I think, work towards kind of turning that on its head. And I think like reframing and like the design thinking process, like that is something that is so valuable in any like any business venture, or like even interdisciplinary teams could use this. Like, yeah, I think that maybe Emily might be able to articulate this better, but I find myself rambling.
These are hard questions. I'm not asking easy questions, and I'm putting you on the spot with some hard questions. So thank you. And I really like the words that you're using, like harmonious and holistic. Those are words that are going to resonate with me for the rest of today.
Well, okay, something that I'll be upset with myself if I don't talk. I think that the program does a good job, and I think that students obviously can kind of turn the dial up for themselves when we like go through the material. But business in itself is just like the main challenges facing society. It's intersectional, and there's so many different aspects that go into like that affect business, that affect the business environment, or even just like the prosperity. And I think that in having exposure to other perspectives or windows of those intersectional issues and problems and points of views, that gives you a better lens through business. So like, yeah, less, I don't know, like it's like The Office, like less matchy to look more put together, but like less business to be more businessy is essentially what I'm trying to say.
Thank you, Celicia. So Emily, in your perspective, how do you find that the BBA is empowering you to make those meaningful social and environmental changes that you so much want to make?
Well, to kind of touch on what Celicia was saying with the intersectionality of business, working in teams, I think, I went into the program thinking, oh, I'll have no problem with teams. But the thing about teams is that there's so much control that you lose in sort of working with different people. But then you kind of gain this new skill, which is really truly meeting people where they're at, and meeting people from all kinds of different backgrounds, and having to work really hard to try and understand those perspectives in a way that allows everybody to work productively and work cohesively on these challenges together. And so I feel really empowered in that experience where I have developed skills, and I know that my teammates have developed skills that like we wouldn't have developed in a normal setting. And I also feel really empowered in working with real clients who are making a difference. I think, the sense that I got in other learning institutions was sort of like, you get your degree, and then when you get your job is when the real learning happens, sort of. But in this instance, I've on the last project, I got feedback from one of the clients where he said, I would have paid money for this report. And I thought, oh, I should have charged, but no, I thought, wow, like I can put this on my portfolio, and I can feel proud of what I did. And I feel like confident taking these skills that I've learned forward. And on top of that, like in this program, we're learning so much about like ecocentric management and like the environment, and how to incorporate these things into our work, that in itself is empowering. Like that's the meat of what we're learning, and that's how we bring that forward into whatever it is that we do next. So yeah, I feel very empowered.
That's very cool. Yeah, because I mean, that is one aspect of it. And it's kind of interesting juxtaposition, because I like what Celicia was saying about less business in order to do more business. That idea of just like zooming out to be able to understand business's role in broader society and in our relationship with nature as well. Whereas most business programs zoom in, right? And look at, this is a finance problem, solve these equations. This is a marketing problem, so, you know, solve this market question. And we are continually sort of just questioning the role of business in society, not to criticize business, not because we're against business, but because we believe that business can be more than what it is right now. So I like the way that you said that. And then I appreciate what you were saying there, Emily, as well, that this approach to business comes with its own toolkit, and that there are tools that we're learning in the BBA program that probably many business students won't ever be exposed to. Tools like a formal life cycle assessment, for example. And that's almost an inside joke with Emily and Celicia, because they just finished a really hard project that involved life cycle assessment. You know, so I appreciate both those perspectives, that zooming out perspective, and the fact that there's a distinct toolkit that we need, that most business schools aren't teaching right now, in order to make beautiful business. Yeah.
I like that. Make beautiful business. So we're coming to the end of today's session. It flew by, but I do have one more question that I'd love to pose to the two of you. And we're going to start with Emily on this. And it's, do you have any advice or any kind of things that you'd like to say to the people in the room or listening to the recording later about if they're considering joining the BBA at Royal Roads? So any final words of advice or anything you'd like to share?
Sure, yeah. If you're looking for an education that is completely different from everything that you've ever done, this would be it. And I mean that in the best way, because, you know, in so much of my previous education, we learned about these concepts and we learned about these ways of being, but none of it was actually implemented in the way that people were taught or treated, or, you know, the way the course was structured. And in this course, like, everything has been so thoughtfully put together that, you know, if you're looking for an alternative way to learn, that will actually prepare you for the workplace, that will actually empower you to make the changes that you want to make, then this is the program for you.
Yeah, what I have to share would be, I think, very similar, but I think more centered around the student. If they're a student that has like questioned whether the traditional system has worked for them as a learner, but also as like an individual growing, and like, yeah, like, you're not the same person as you like going into a program as you are leaving. And I think that not enough institutions recognize that. And if you find yourself trying to work in all of the electives you can to make sure that your non-traditional environment or like non-environmental degree has some sort of like edge of sustainability to it, you will very much so appreciate the work that has gone into preparing the modules, that like every single topic has those values and principles applied in real time, and it's less work for you. Like, because that was something that I was doing. I would be learning in my business program and then seeing, oh, well, this TED Talk talks about that, but also social innovation. Or, well, this is interesting, but there's this organization and like this education platform that does this. So I think, yeah, it's a good time to look within and really take in the resources that are available on the site and all of our webinars here. Like, there's a lot to learn about the program because it's so different, and coming into it, there will always be an element of surprise, which I promise you is not a bad thing. But I think, yeah, getting as clear a picture of what you're going into is the best first step.
And Todd, I'd love to welcome you to share any final words with the people in the room or listening to the recording as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that around kind of my one piece of advice to students is to do the homework and make sure that you're choosing a program that's right for you, like Emily and Celicia have done. And maybe, you know, watching these webinars has kind of piqued your interest around what could business look like from an ecocentric or from a socially responsible perspective, and maybe do a little bit of digging to explore whether or not it feels like a good match for you. It is a different model. It's crazy and dynamic, and every day is a busy and exciting day with a lot of unpredictability attached to it because it's all client work, just like the real world. And I think that if you're excited about that kind of dynamic learning experience, I think that, as Celicia kind of was pointing out, this could be the right place for you. But also bear in mind that it's hard, that it actually demands a lot from students. And even though a lot of the learning can be pretty fun along the way, you got to put in a lot of hours to get through the coursework. So that's the other piece I would suggest considering is like, what is your bandwidth and how much are you willing to commit to this? If you're willing to go all in, I think we've got an amazing educational experience for you here. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Emily, Celicia, Todd. Thank you to everyone in the room today who joined us, and to our support behind the scenes. We couldn't have done it without you. So if you're wanting to learn more about the program or have any questions, check out our website. You can also reach out to us directly. If you're a domestic student living in Canada, you can reach out to learn.more@ruralroads.ca. And if you're an international student, you can reach out to learn.more.international@ruralroads.ca. And I want to thank you all for your time today and hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. Take care.